Hello and welcome to the Lina Knits podcast, my podcast about knitting and yarn and occasionally other crafty endeavors. This is episode 44 and I'm Lina and I'm coming to you from my home in Helsinki, Finland. If we haven't met before, just briefly who I am. I'm a knitwear designer, a tech editor and many other things, and I knit a lot. I'll pop in my information where to find me at the end of the episode and also in the description box below. My website is linaknits.com and I send out a newsletter a couple of times a month. And you can subscribe to it at linaknits.com/list. And now let's get on with the episode. Let's get on to the knitting. I have a finished object this week, also some whips and some happy mail to share with you. And then what I'm wearing, I almost forgot to mention this, I am wearing my Ella Shrug by Hannah Feddick that I knit last spring, and I really love it. It's just a perfect layer of warmth, light and warm. This is knit out of Porsche Yarn's Miranda Heavy Lace, which is their alpaca silk cashmere mix, and it's just heavenly. Alright, first on the whip. I finished my Elska hat. This is a pattern by Isolde Teak, and it's part of the Knitworthy 4 collection. Oh, and I'm showing you exactly the side that has the seam. And I didn't bother trying to hide it, so it's visible. And this hasn't been blocked. I haven't woven in the ends, and it hasn't been blocked yet, but it's the knitting is finished. This is what the inside looks like. This one didn't have any really long floats. I didn't have to do, I didn't have to bind the colors, the yarns. I knit continental style, and even when doing color work, I use just one hand. I don't do the two-handed color work. It could be easier, but learning it, I've tried it a few times, and learning it seems to take so long that I just rather knit it the way I do. So I really fell in love with the pattern as soon as it was released and just wanted to cast on immediately. The yarns therefore are from my stash, and they're just odd ends of different 100% superwash wool or 75-25, the usual sock base. And I think the white one actually has some silk in it as well. So these are not the typical yarns for color work. You would preferably do color work like this, stranded color work like this, with non-superwash wool, the more rustic, the sticky kind of wool. And I really would have loved to do that, but like I said, I wanted to cast on immediately, and also I saw this as a project to really spend some of those leftover skeins, or not, like the leftovers of skeins. This used 5 colors, or was it 6? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, 6 colors. So ordering new yarn for this would have meant that I would have had even more leftovers. So, and I'm quite happy with how it looks, even in these more slippery yarns. Not all of the color combinations ended up working that well, like where I have this gray and the medium blue together. they are too close to one another to really show up that well. But yeah, I have a new colorwork hat just in time for autumn. So really happy with this. Now I just have to weave in all these ends and block it. But yeah, a finished object. And then on to whips. Just want to say that there's a lot of knitting going on that I'm not showing on the podcast, like my design work. I don't share that as I knit, because things change, and sometimes, like lately, I've had to knit samples that are secret, that I'm not allowed to share until they're published. And also I've knit samples for others and need to keep those secret as well. So there's more knitting going on than I'm showing, and I just wanted to say that like once out loud, so that you're not thinking that I'm not knitting anymore as much as I used to. I am, and just I can't share everything, but the reason that I'm not constantly bringing that up is because I feel silly doing it, saying that yeah, I've knit this and that, but I can't talk about it or show it. So just know that there's a lot of knitting going on that I'll share when and if I'm able. Oh, and on that vein, I think I'll probably briefly show my own designs here on the podcast when I can, but I'm thinking of doing like separate videos for those, just so that it's really easy for you to just watch the podcast, or if you're interested, watch those. So you don't have to skip around on the podcast video if that's not something you're interested in. That's an idea. Let's see how it works out. But onto the whips. I've been crocheting some on the Kalevala crochet along blanket. I have 2 squares now. Since the last podcast, there have been 4 more that have come out, and I have 2, so I'm even more behind than I was last time. But this is the one that I had started. I'd done the center, the basic center, and I was crocheting the picots, and then I did the edges. There's on I believe on this row you will also supposed to wrap these the similarly as here below, but I was really running out of yarn as I was doing this from the last bits of this blue tricotery superwash merino DK in the color Bad Wolf. So I skipped that, and that was the correct choice. This is literally where the yarn ended, so I wouldn't have had any yarn for that. So it's finished. It's not blocked. And then this is the second one that's really needing blocking. It's all wonky, but I really like it. And I started a different skein. So I'm doing this out of stash yarn as well, so DK weight or heavy sport weight yarns that I have, and I've gone through a few leftover balls and then 2 skeins of this blue one, and now I'm onto this one, and this is by Louhittaren Luola. It's a base she no longer carries, I believe, called Ahti, and the colorway was also for some glove that she did, and I got these from another knitter's D-stash. Oh, that sounded complicated. Anyway, so I'm using it for this. There are 2 skeins of these as well, so I'm assuming I will get a good amount of squares out of it. These rings here in the middle. The pattern says they are snakes, and I'm absolutely terrified of snakes. So I'm pretending I did not read that, and they are just intertwined rings. Luckily they don't really look like snakes, so I can pretend. This was really nice to knit. I'm hoping the blocking will make it lie more flat. There, I believe if I had done all the squares out so far, I would be halfway done with this. And there's also already instructions for how to join them, but I can't do that because I'm not knitting these, well, because I'm adding new colors all the time, and so I need to have all the squares finished before I can do the layout of the blanket and then join them. So that will have to wait. And yeah, I'm feeling a bit stressed about not keeping up with the knit along, but I am making progress, and when I am crocheting on it, I'm enjoying it, so I think it's still good. Another project and a knit along that I've fallen behind on are the mystery socks. Now these have already been finished, so I'm not gonna do the whole spoiler warning thing. You've seen these already. These are the Finnish sock knitting competition Sukka Finlandia. Their warm-up, well, no, not the warm-up, just the sort of just kick it off with mystery sock pattern that's turned out to be something where the socks are really knit in a very unusual construction. Knit it into a tube sideways, then you knit the toe, and then you knit the heel. The last bit is then to pick up stitches from either side of it, unravel this, and knit the leg. And like you see, mine aren't exactly flat, so I'm thinking these are more the slipper type of socks. So my square is, I knit the square too large, and I've got two pairs here, or well, not two pairs, two socks here. So I've got the pair, but I still need to do the leg on both. Yeah, so even though I don't think the finished object is something that I'll be terribly happy with, knitting this has definitely been interesting, and it's always fun to try new things, and I'm really enjoying the yarns that I'm using. For my main color, I'm using for the main color I'm using Tail and Tendril. The colorway is called Daisy, and it's an 80-20 sock mix fingering weight sock mix cypress base. So it's really a really lovely soft variegated. And for my darker color, I'm using Lina Knits Ex Machina's basic sock in the colorway Desperate Cinderella. And there will definitely be enough left for another pair of socks that I think I'm going to pair them up for some other pair as well, because I really like them together. But yeah, the last clue is out and it's finished, and actually the warm-up pattern for that competition is also out and people are knitting it. I've picked my yarn, maybe I'll cast on it by the next podcast. I'm drinking milky oolong today. I really like it. It's quite sweet on its own, and it's also good for for podcasting because you can drink it even if it gets a bit cool. It still tastes really good. So that's my drink of choice. Oh, and I have a new whip. I dug out my lovely autumny bag that's from Fondant Fibers. And it's a large bag, so I'm knitting a sweater. I cast on for a new sweater. It's a fingering weight. Oh, there are too many needles on this one. And this is, I don't have a lot done, but this is what I have. So it's a top-down sweater, so I'm knitting the raglan. This is Confetti by Veera Välimäki. It's a striped, striped raglan, top-down, slightly flaring, not too long top. I'm using, for the blue, I'm using Porsche Yarns Esme Thog and ringed with the Azure Walled He Stands. That is 440 yards, 400 meters in 100 gram, and it's 100% merino. This one doesn't say it's superwash or not, and it says hand wash only. But from the feel of it, I think it is a superwash. And my grayish white is Fiddle Knits Polka in the colorway Diamond. And this is also 100% superwash merino, so they're really good mix. So it'll be a mix of stripes. The blue is my main color, and then I'll add the white stripes. And this is my Finland sweater. The white isn't exactly the bright white of our flag or of our colors, but it's close enough. Again, I wanted to do something with stash yarn. And this blue, this is pretty good, thin blue. So I'm knitting myself a blue and white striped sweater. We could say it's also to celebrate our 100th year of independence. It's quite funny that pretty much everywhere you go, or whatever you watch, it's been said out loud that this is the 100 years of independence. So it kind of rubs on you, and you want to do something to celebrate it. So I'm knitting, crocheting the Kalevala, and now I'm doing the sweater. Yeah, I've got 2 skeins of this and one of that. I'll see how long sleeves I can get. And then also, yeah, the Sukka Finlandia competition is also to celebrate that. So it's sort of difficult to not be affected by our anniversary, but also I don't mind. I know I complain sometimes a lot about Finland and living here, but I guess that's normal to complain about where you live. But yeah, I'm happy to celebrate it. Right. Then I took this with me to remind myself to talk about this. I wanted to talk about frogging finished projects. Last episode I showed you that I frogged, I showed the yarn that I frogged. I showed the yarn that I got when I frogged a tunic length DK weight sweater that I had knit a few years previously. And I think, yeah, before in the podcast I've also shared that I frogged another sweater and knit the yarn again into a new one that I'm now using. This hasn't yet been knit because I haven't picked up the pattern for it yet. But mentioning these things, gosh, I'm long-winded. Mentioning these things resulted in a lot of people commenting on frogging finished projects, and I just wanted to talk a bit more about that. It's definitely not something that's mentally easy to do, and it does take time as well. And I don't know what sort of setup you would need to have for it to be physically easy. My back is always really sore after frogging a sweater, but anyway, definitely need to be in a certain mood to be able to frog something. I find the starting is the most difficult one, the unwinding or the unpicking of the cast off edge, and then starting to slowly pull it apart. That first bit is really difficult, but the more I get into it, the lighter I feel. It's just, and at the end I always feel relieved, pretty much, because this thing, it's something that I've spent a lot of time on, and oftentimes knitting a sweater definitely hasn't been easy. A lot of work has gotten into that, and it feels like a waste of time, like really bad to be undoing it all. But on the other hand, yarn is not cheap, no matter what yarn you use, especially if it's a sweater. That's a lot of money, and also a lot of work that's just sitting in your closet reminding you of or making you feel guilty. So frogging it just makes me feel better once I've done it. Like I can repurpose the yarn and can do something else with it, or I can sell it, or whatever. Usually I want to do something else with it. If I've, like with these two sweaters that I've frogged, if I've liked the yarn enough to knit it into a sweater once, I'm probably liking it enough to want to have it in a sweater. It's just that the pattern wasn't, or the finished product wasn't suitable to my closet or my personality. So afterwards I always feel really good. How I do it is, well, this is actually something that I could do a vlog on. Oh, and I need to talk about that vlog. Yeah, so after I'm using two chair backs, and I'm winding the yarn around that to make it into sort of skeins. Then I soak them and I hang them to dry to get the yarn not be so wrinkly, to straighten it out, and then I just twist them into skeins. So that's how I do it. So yeah, within 6 months or so I frogged 2 sweaters, and actually I know there's a poncho I want to frog because I just don't use it anymore. For this one, I did use it a couple of times, but then not in the past 2 years or so, so definitely time to go. Yeah, so it's repurposing the yarn. It's good for the budget. You can knit another sweater with the same yarn, the same money. It gives you 2 knitting projects. Also, I don't think about the time spent knitting the sweater that I frogged, or the project that I frogged, as wasted. If I've enjoyed the knitting process, then it's all good. I enjoy knitting as something that I want to do. I do like the finished products as well, but I also like the act of knitting. So if I've enjoyed knitting whatever it is I'm frogging, I've probably also learned something from it. It's definitely not a waste of time in my books. So happy to do it again with the yarn that I enjoy. If I don't like the yarn, like I don't like the problem with whatever I'm looking at is not the shape, or just that it doesn't fit in a wardrobe, but it's the actual yarn that I don't like, the yarn, the color, or the feel of it, then I usually donate those away. I take them to a thrift shop or a charity shop, and just hope that someone else will enjoy knitting them, or wearing them, or frogging and knitting the yarn again. I've heard of some people who buy sweaters from thrift stores to frog the yarn and knit something else with it. So yeah, I think that's everything I wanted to say about that. So I'm not saying that go frog whatever you have, but if you feel like you should be frogging something, just do it. It's not time wasted. It's time that you've spent enjoying your hobby and learning. Repurposing the yarn is good for the environment. It's good for your closet since it doesn't have things that you don't wear. Also frees up the guilt on having too many things, and also the money hasn't been wasted if you knit something else that you actually wear with it. Not that I think that knitting something and then giving it away means you've wasted the money. Again, if you've enjoyed the knitting process, then that's your hobby. All right, yay. Mail. I got my Woods book. I joined in on the crowdfunding thing last winter, spring, I don't even remember when it was, but now the book is finished already and they've mailed it out and I have it, and I really like it. It's, like you see, a good sized soft cover book with plenty inside. There are articles, interviews on the yarns and the yarn makers, the designers. There are tutorials and of course lots and lots of patterns. There are several here that I could see myself making. Yeah, when I joined the crowdfunding, and I think when most people joined the crowdfunding, we hadn't really seen any of the patterns, so it was a surprise. And I know they've posted about the patterns after that, but I didn't really pay much attention to it. I wanted to be surprised. And there are several, like I said, several that I could see myself knitting, but I'm really head over heels in love with this one. This sweater. This is called Boulogne sweater, and it's designed by Orlaine Suke. And it's knit with Blacker Yarns Lioness DK. And I really love it. And I've got some Lioness fingering or foreplay that I got from Edinburgh Yarn Festival, and I really like how the yarn feels. I haven't knit anything with it. I was meant to do a shawl. It's a wool linen blend, but I'm really thinking I want to do the sweater in that yarn, so I might treat myself to a sweater's quantity of Lioness DK for this one and cast it on immediately. So I think now this book is again available to order, so if you didn't get in on the crowdfunding, wanted to see what it looks like, then go check out their website. The patterns are all on Ravelry now. Another one I really liked are these mittens, Winterfold mittens by Claire Walls. But yeah, I haven't read through this yet. I just flipped through it. I'm really looking forward to when I have the time to just sit down and read and start that sweater. I'll share a bit of non-knitting craftiness. I've been making a quilt top for my son, and this is from all of his old clothes. So things that have gotten too small for him. This is too huge to show fully on the podcast, or fully on camera. But it's I've been putting aside clothes that no longer fit in, and then cutting them up into squares. And this past weekend I sewed all the squares into a top. So now I need to go get some batting and the backing fabric and get it done. I think I'm just gonna do this sort of I'm not gonna quilt it. I'm just gonna loop the, what is it called? Just put the yarn loop around the different layers and tie it up. I did try to make my squares even sized, but when I began sewing it didn't work out, so not all the corners made up, but I don't care. Also, like here, I purposefully left some occasionally on some clothes the hems, or then there are like in this one there's the seam. These were a pair of pants, so this is the side seam of the pant, just to get as much fabric out of them as possible. I think this is part of a bear, and I think the bear's head is somewhere higher up on the blanket or on the quilt. There it is, there's the bear's head. He hasn't seen this yet. I've been doing it in secret. I think he will really like it. Most of these clothes were something that he didn't want to give up. I was like, yeah, I don't care if the sleeves are up my elbows, I can still wear it. So I think he will be really happy to have them still in some form. Alright, and then last week I did something new. I did a vlog about a spinning meetup I went to. I thought it, like I said on the vlog, I thought it would be fun to do little vlogs of crafty things that I get up to between the podcast episodes. So I tried it and I liked it. But yeah, the spinning meetup, a friend suggested it and I thought it would be fun. I haven't spun in a really long time, but this is what I have now on the bobbin. I've done a bit of spinning at home after the meetup, so not all of this is done in one evening, though we did spend several hours there, so I got a fair bit done. And it was more even, and then I did it at home, and now what you have on top is not that good. I don't know, I guess I need to go to the meetup again to spin better. Anyway, go check out that vlog if you haven't already done so. And if there's anything specific you would like me to vlog about, or if you have any ideas for topics, let me know in the comments below and I'll see if I can make it happen. Thank you so much for watching again, or for the first time if you're new to this channel. Like I said in the beginning, I'll put where to find me right after this, and also in the description box below. If you enjoyed this episode and haven't already done so, please hit the subscribe button, and a big thank you to everyone who has given me a thumbs up or left comments. It is always so wonderful to hear from you. I hope to see you soon again, and let's keep in touch. Happy knitting!